No, I don't like a wee on bumble way. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Dr. What? I am Jeannette.
And I am Sara.
As you may or may not be able to tell, today we're going to be covering the beautiful two-parter Rise of the Cybermen / The Age of Steel.
Beautiful is such an overstatement.
Look, I'm trying to give it some grace here, okay?
Dude, these episodes were like giving nothing. Even like bad episodes can be enjoyable and campy, you know, but like there wasn't enough camp for me to laugh my way through it. And there wasn't enough meaning for me to really think about anything. And I was just like staring at the screen, like imagining a better episode in my head. And like that's how I got through it.
Yeah. It was really riding hard on the coattails of the Cybermen. You know, because the Cybermen are an old-time, like a classic Who villain, right? Mm-hmm. But they're not iconic enough. They're not as iconic as the Daleks. You can't just ride hard on them. You know what I mean? Well, ride hard on the Cybermen. I'll show you an Age of Steel.
Oh my god.
But yeah, they don't have enough personality to like, and I don't think the plot that they put, I don't know. It was just
so painfully mid that I like this whole episode we're just gonna be like tearing Tom McRae a new one, who's the writer of the episode, by the way.
Yeah. Tom McRae, that was not a Tom McSlay.
That was so good.
Thank you. But even though the episode was mid, hopefully there are some fun facts that you found about it.
There are. So, written by Tom McRae, he hoped to imagine the Cybermen not so much as mere villains, but as sad figures which he thought could be made terrifying through the notion of victims being upgraded into Cybermen rather than being killed. As such, they were, quote, a cross between vampires and zombies.
Okay, that's fine.
Right? It's like I see the vision, I see like what you were trying to do.
I don't know, it's kind of giving New Earth, though, like, with the, like, zombie, like, plague guys, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that whole thing. I feel like it's not something that we haven't seen before, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Rise of the Cybermen aired during the 40th anniversary of The 10th Planet, the story that introduced the original Cybermen.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah. And it's also based off of a audio story by Big Finish, which, if you don't know, Big Finish Productions is a British audio production company. They're the people who are in charge of all the Doctor Who like audio stories and podcasts and such. Mm-hmm. I believe the original one came out in 2002. I forget the name of it, but it was a Fifth Doctor story, and it probably did better than whatever the fuck was happening here.
Oh.
I have very few kind words, but I want to know what kind words you have about this episode, Jeanette. We're treating them as one.
Before I get into my kind words, let's get into what the plot of the episode even is about, since we've been shitting on it.
Oh my god, I'm sorry.
So I'm just gonna, no, you're totally good. I'm just gonna read the two synopses, one after the other. Upon landing on an alternate version of Earth, the Doctor, Rose, and Mickey learn that Peter Tyler is apparently alive and well. Imagine he was alive and not well. Lurking in the shadows are creatures made to destroy. One of the Doctor's greatest fears have come true. The Cybermen are reborn.
I don't know. It's like his second greatest fear.
Right? I feel like are the Cybermen even... I know I've watched at least one classic Who episode with the Cybermen. It wasn't like the Seventh Doctor one, what is it, Silver Nemesis? That's the one where they last appeared in Classic Who. It was some other one. I don't remember. Maybe like when they first were introduced or so. I don't even know. But they weren't that iconic to me, personally. Speaking.
In preparation for recording this, I was like reading through people's like thoughts about it on Reddit because I was like, I can't be the only person that like just fucking hated like everything that happened here. And someone said everyone's second favorite villain is back. I was like, God, like that's even worse than being like a fun like campy villain that comes around every now and again. It's like fully just like second place, never really living up to like the legend of the Daleks, but also not being like cool enough to be like a fun like recurring character every now and then.
Yeah.
They're like very mid to me, at least.
Yeah. Well, in the second episode, in the parallel universe, Lumik's insanity has reached its crescendo. All right, Lumik is the big bad of the... It wasn't mentioned in the first synopsis because... But anyway, Lumik's the guy who's turning everybody into Cybermen, and he's in a wheelchair. I don't know if that's relevant. But his insanity has reached its crescendo. The unwilling populace is being converted into Cybermen, the madman's twisted vision of perfecting humanity. Will the Doctor help prevent this Earth from falling to the Cybermen?
I guess.
I don't know, Sarah.
Will he? Well, I mean, the bigger question is, will the Doctor ever learn to treat Mickey like a human being? And the answer is no.
I know. Literally, the first episode, they spent all this time where Rose was like, you really underestimate him, you know, like, he was raised by his grandmother, and she died, and, like, blah, blah, blah. And then he was like, huh, cool. And then it was just, like, not a thing. Again, like...
He didn't even, they had that moment together in the TARDIS, and I'm thinking, okay, like, they're finally gonna, like, have a conversation, they're finally gonna bond, and, like, they didn't really connect at all in any real way. He doesn't really ask him any questions that I can remember, at least, about his grandmother after learning that. He's just kind of like, oh, yeah, well, you never told me that. Like, I hated him here. I really did not like him in these two episodes, and Mickey is just like the butt of like every joke, and he turns around and he saves the day and everything, but it's like he's always been capable. Like, can we stop with like shitting on Mickey? Like, it got old like last season. Like, we know that he can save the day. Like, come on.
Like, even at the very end when, what is it, like, oh, the Doctor, like, wishes him luck, like, with the whatever code thing that's like, oh, how to destroy the whatever the fuck, right? Do you know what I'm talking about at the very end?
He was just, like, sending him hints on how to, like, destroy the Cybermen.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, good luck, like, Mickey the idiot, like, dude.
Oh, yeah, like even an idiot could, like, figure this out. And then Mickey's like, oh, that's me. I'm the idiot. It's like, he's not an idiot. Like, the fact that he was even able to, like, get into, like, this Zeppelin and, like, hack into the mainframe or whatever and figure out that there was sound on the computer and, like, do all of this shit. The fact that he's even, like, here at all proves that he's not an idiot. He's just, like, a guy who's trying his best and often succeeds. Like, come on.
It's just at every turn, even when they're being nice to him, they have to undermine him. And it's just, like... Honestly, I'm glad that they put him in the parallel universe because at least there, probably people will appreciate him more.
Right? No, okay. This is what I was imagining when I was watching these episodes. Like, I kind of felt like he had some chemistry with Jake, like the other guy.
Yeah, the preacher guy.
Yeah, we're the preachers, as in gospel truth. That shit was so funny. Yeah, I felt like they had like a certain chemistry, and the whole thing with like, you know, his best friend was Ricky, who looks exactly like Mickey, and then Ricky dies and he has to deal with the fact that like this person who looks exactly like his best friend but isn't is just gonna be like around. And I was like, that's like fascinating. Like, what if like there was like a romance brewing. And so in the back of my mind, I was just like imagining
dude,
this.
Your Yowie glasses were on, dude. They literally, like, you sat down for this episode, and the minute you saw that there was like a guy for Mickey, you were like, Yowie goggles? Activate. Computer. Enhance.
When are they ever off? When are they ever
This
off?
is the thing. I think they're, like, burned into your skull. Like, they're attached to your head. Just like the Cybermen.
Wattpad at age 13 will do that to you.
Please. Imagine the Cybermen, like, instead of those headsets turning you into Cybermen, they turned you into Yowie men. Cyber Yowie. Cyber Fujoshis.
Your hands, like, start growing, like, twice their original size.
Stop. Oh my god. And your chin. Your chin
Becomes giant. But if you're, like, a man below, like, 6 feet, then you become, like, a little, like, Omega, and you can't, like, do anything. You can't lift things.
You couldn't go, like, 5 minutes into this episode without saying Omega.
It's been 13 minutes.
Oh, has it been? Has it been?
I think that counts for something. I couldn't think of, like, what else to say. Like, genuinely, I was like, what's...
uke?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, an uke.
Brother.
That would make more sense.
See, this is how you can tell that, like, I had my formative, like, yaoi experiences through anime, and Sarah had their formative yaoi experiences through Super Hulock.
I'm, like, yeah. Gags. But, like,
anyway.
But, like, the just, like, the concept of, like, someone looking exactly the same as, like, someone that you really care about, but it's not them. That, like, that's really interesting. And, like...
Yes.
Why am I exploring this in my head? It doesn't have to be romantic, right? Like, why am I exploring this dynamic in my head and not seeing it on the screen? Why am I instead seeing, like, Rose deal with all these complicated feelings about seeing her dead father in front of her when it was done so much better in Father's Day? It's like, what is the point of this? Like, it's not as poignant as it was last season, and it's just, like, not giving anything. Like, nothing at all. Not even, like, camp value.
If they wanted to retread the path of, you know, her seeing her dad again in another context, like, it should have been way later in the series. Like, it's just too fresh. Father's Day was so good of an episode. Like, you just can't touch it with a 12-foot pole unless you're, like, I don't know, 5 seasons out from it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Like,
it's like how you can do... It's like how the Dalek episode kind of wasn't it for me, because it was so recent after we had already wrapped up the Daleks.
Yeah. Like, we just watched an episode that did it so much better. Why are we rehashing it?
Exactly. Well, I feel like that mostly gets everything that we hated about the 2 episodes out of the way.
Yeah.
Because I think we're totally in agreement about that, because the way they treated Mickey in this episode was deplorable.
Fucking awful. Like, it's not even... I don't even... Like, am I supposed to laugh when the Doctor and Rose are, like, talking about their own experiences together and, like, leaving Mickey out of the conversation? And, like, Mickey still has his hand on the thing in the TARDIS, and the Doctor is like, haha, I forgot to tell you to take your hand off of it. Like, I hate that. I hate it. And I know that, like, it's leading up to Mickey leaving them, so obviously their flaws are coming to the forefront. We're really seeing why Mickey wants to leave and whatever. But, like, I don't know. Like, they just devalue him so much as a character here. Like, not every single word out of everyone's mouth has to be about how stupid Mickey is. Like, for us to understand.
And it just seems... Yeah, it just seems like... And I think one of the points this season is trying to make is that this Doctor, like, 10, and Rose, like, with him, like, they're extremely childish. Mm-hmm. Like, they, you know, they kind of have that, like, catty, like, petty back and forth that they then, like... And they're kind of in their own little bubble, also. So they just kind of, like, you know... And Mickey's outside of it. Whereas I feel like with 9, even though... he obviously didn't really like Mickey. Like, there was still a place for him at the table, and, like, he begrudgingly acknowledged his abilities. And maybe I'm looking at it with rose colored glasses, but we talked about this before. Like, it was more of a cohesive group. It wasn't like the Doctor and Rose against Mickey and the world, you know? And it feels especially pointed also, like, I feel like I have to bring up the fact that Mickey is one of our only characters of color, like main characters of color.
He's the only one.
He's the only one.
Only
like,
one.
we had some throwaway people, like, what, in Long Game, right? That the worker, whatever.
Yeah.
But he is literally the only long-standing character of color thus far in New Who, and they cannot shut up about how stupid he is, and how, like, even when time and time again he proves himself. So it's just, it feels gross. Like, it feels really bad.
We are going to really unpack this in depth when it comes to season 3, when Miss Martha Jones comes on the scene. There's a lot more to be said about that. And there's also, like,
what do they do to her?
We can't go into it now. We will go into it when we get to it. There's some really good, like, YouTube videos talking about, like, that subject that I will share when the time comes. But
okay.
It's so bad. I really don't think, especially in these early seasons, that Doctor Who is able to handle, like, their non-white characters well.
Yeah.
It's not a good look. And it's really unfortunate, too. Like, I really do love Mickey. Like, he's a really good guy. Like, why? I can't. It makes me really upset.
Now that we've talked about all the downers of the episode, what was your favorite bit, if you had one? Was there anything?
I don't really think that there was anything, like, is it overarching or overarching?
It's arch.
Okay.
Overarching.
There were no overarching themes or really anything throughout these 2 episodes that I can say that I fully enjoyed. It's mostly just, like, little small parts. I'm gonna have to go with Lumik's whole Cyberman transformation. Like, that was funny. I wish that we had, like, gotten a lot more of that throughout, because when he comes out and the giant Cyberman wheelchair, that shit was so funny. And then when he's, like, hanging off the edge of, like, the ladder as they're trying to climb into the Zeppelin, and he's like, rah! And then, like,
please.
And then, like, Peter Tyler is, like, holding the sonic screwdriver to the rope, just, like, hoping that the sonic screwdriver will break rope. And then he slow motion falls, like, back into, like, this explosion. It's like, it was really funny. I really did like those parts.
I'm glad you found something to laugh at in this episode. I am so glad.
Did you?
Did I? Yes. My favorite part actually was Jackie in these 2 episodes.
Oh my god.
Like, the alternate universe Jackie. Because, first of all, she was so cunty rich woman slay.
Yeah.
Second of all, I guess, like... Second of all, the fucking dog. The fact that the dog's name was Rose really got me. And she's like, here, Rose. Like, here. Like, oh my god. That really got me. I thought she was so funny.
Yeah. No, Jackie was great.
Otherwise, like, honestly, it was a flop. It was a flop all around for me.
There was the one scene where the Cyberman becomes, like, aware of its existence. It's with the Doctor and Mrs. Moore, and they're, like, kind of kneeling by it, and it's talking about how it's about to get married, or it's a she, and she talks about, like, her full name, and, like, what was it, like, Gareth or something?
Yeah.
That honestly touched me. I remember when I first watched it too, like, that touched me, and that was kind of, like, what stuck out to me. So when I was about to rewatch these episodes, I was expecting a lot more of that, and it seems like Tom McRae, like, wanted to incorporate more of that and to make them, like, a more tragic figure, but
Yeah.
There's really only, like, that one moment, and then in the moment at the end where they're all, like, screaming and stuff, like, we don't really get more of that, and I kind of wish we had. Like, they didn't really know which direction to take it into, it seems like. There's, like, that one moment of tragedy, and then the one campy, funny moment, but then the rest of it is just kind of, like, nothing, so it's just, it falls flat. But I did like that one scene. I did.
Yeah. Yeah. That was good. It was such a touching, like, actually resonant moment in a sea of just, like, we're going through the plot motions. We're going through the plot motions. Like, and even then, I feel like it kind of mimicked what we saw in New Earth. Like, with the, you know, how the plague bodies or whatever, like, they were grown from a tube, but they do have consciousness and they kind of, like, were alive and, like, were people and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It resonated that way, you know, kind of in the same way, but it was a good moment in the episode. I can give it that.
Yeah. I didn't think to compare it to New Earth. That's a really interesting observation.
It's more of a surface level one, like, that I just thought of when you mentioned that quote about the Cybermen being kind of a combination of vampires and zombies, because in New Earth, the plague guys are very obviously, like, kind of a zombie equivalent in that they hoard, and that if you get infected, like, you literally die from every disease. But I think there's something also to be said about, like, their level of humanity and how they are kind of, like, gaining their humanity, but then Lumic was kind of taking away the humanity of the Cybermen by creating people into Cybermen, but then they still like retain a little bit of that. I don't know. There might be something there, like, to dig into.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like there definitely was, and as I was watching it, I kept, like, trying to dig deeper, but I feel like they just didn't know how when they were writing it. And so there was nothing really more to dig into other than, like, the surface level observation of, oh, they're taking away their humanity. And then there were also the weird comments about, like, technology and how the human race will just kind of, like, submit to whatever, like, a big technology company tells them to do. And so I was like, okay, is this, like, a commentary on, like, rapidly advancing technology? Is this, like, a commentary on, like, stripping people of their humanity? Is it a communism allegory? Like, what are we going for?
Right. Yeah. I just couldn't tell you.
No, yeah, like, there's so much you could do with that too, and they didn't. You can, like, feel them, like, grasping at the straws, and they, like, touch them every now and again, but they don't actually, like, get them.
Yeah, that is the thing. Well, I really hope that the next episode is, like, not gonna flop, because this was a really big disappointment, especially after I feel like a really well-beloved episode, and generally, like, meaty in terms of character stuff. Maybe not with Madame de Pompadour, but, like, with the Doctor and like, Rose, you know?
Yeah, I feel like this season thus far has felt kind of, like, flip-floppy. We'll have an episode that, like, is giving nothing, and then, like, a fantastic, like, classic, like The Girl in the Fireplace, or a really campy, like, fun ride, like Tooth and Claw, or we'll have, like, School Reunion, which has fantastic character moments.
Yeah.
And then there's also, like, New Earth, which is just kind of, like, fun, but not giving everything, and now then, like, a two-parter that didn't really need to be a two-parter, that just kind of felt like a means to an end to, like, get Mickey to leave and to just, like, bring back, like, a villain.
Yeah.
It's definitely a weird season. I think the next episode is a lot more fun, from what I can remember, but God, man, this was such a disappointment. Although, I just remembered the scene where they're putting people in to get turned into Cybermen and they're getting chopped up, and then, like,
that pissed me off so bad, because, little known fact about me, I hate that song.
Really?
That is probably the song that I hate the most out of any song I have ever heard in my entire life. I just have this irrational hatred of it.
What?
I just cannot stand it.
Why? What about it?
It's just bad. It's just so terrible.
You don't like the way they go? You don't like that?
No, I don't like a wee on bumba way. I really don't. I just can't stand it. I can't. And like, oh, the jungle, the lion sleeps tonight, whatever.
I actually, at my old job, when I would like wait at the bus stop every morning, there would be a guy who would be biking by, and he had a speaker, and he would blast like that song like in the jungle, and I would hear like far off like the wee, and I'm like, oh, he's coming, like, and it was like in the dark too because it was really early in the morning. Nobody else around, just me and this guy.
Wow. No one else around. In the jungle. The Sara waits tonight for the bus.
That's how you know it was a bad episode. We just like aired all our grievances and now we're like, fuck.
That's the thing. Well, you know what we can do? We can talk about, it's actually a good thing that this episode is a little bit shorter, because we can talk about how there's going to be a special episode for next time.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Because Sara and I are going to be meeting up to go to Fandom Fest Schenectady. And none of you will know that we're there, like, because this episode is going to air, like, way after it happens, because it's happening this weekend. But Sara and I are going to be going, and we're going to have 2 special guests when we record our in-person episode for The Idiot's Lantern.
I'm so excited. We're going to be having our very own enemy of the podcast, Will Tote.
Woo! Ow, ow, ow! Woo!
And we're also going to have Jack McCormack. I don't really know if he's a friend of the podcast.
Lover of the podcast.
He's a lover of the podcast.
Like,
not he loves the podcast.
Person who not person who loves the podcast, but a lover of the podcast, if you know.
Paramour of the podcast.
Ooh, there you go.
When I was watching this episode, he walked into the room for, I want to say, like 10 seconds, and as soon as like a character opened their mouth, he was like, God, I can't watch this. How do they talk like that? And then left.
Well, I'll never forget, Sara and I watched the Christmas Invasion together, and Jack was, like, on the other line, and he was like, why does David Tennant look like a gnome? Or, like, something like that, and I was like, how dare you? Like, literally, how dare you right now?
Every character that, like, I like, he just, like, has to hate them, because he's a hater at heart. So it will be really interesting to see what he has to say about the Idiot's Lantern. Like, I guarantee that he's gonna be quiet for like 15 minutes, and then we'll just like say something about how much he hates like David Tennant, and then we'll be quiet for like the rest of the episode. It'll be really funny.
I'm excited. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's gonna be a movie.
Wow. If we were a movie,
you'd be the right guy. Man.
Well, if you enjoyed this episode and how much of a hater, or how much of a hater we both were, please keep listening to the podcast and follow us on our socials. Sara?
At dr.what.podcast on Instagram and at drwhatpodcast on Tumblr.
Yippee!
Dr. What?